income, it feels much better to be in a situation where you feel pretty safe and secure. Maybe you don't have any, you know, debts per se, or you don't have any car payments or house payments. Some people, you know, their homes are paid for or paid off, and you know, there's a million things go into feelings of insecurity. And you could be the hardest worker on the planet. Doesn't mean you're able to provide for yourself and or others. Also, I stress out because I'm only an aunt, like to other, I don't have any kids, but I feel like because of my education and everything, I wish I could provide better for people. Like, I want to give better gifts to my niece and nephews. I wish I could, you know, give them the world, you know, considering the fact that, you know, I actually have a college education, a university one at that, and, you know, an education doesn't necessarily secure work that it was supposed to. I grew up with, you go to the university, you go to school, you get a degree, and that's supposed to equal a better job, higher pay. It doesn't. You can come out, depending on your most degrees, you'd have to be very specialized in order to find, and hopefully you find a job that's where you can work with people. So it doesn't, just a degree, even though I do think it's helpful to have one in general, it doesn't secure a job and one that has people who you can put up with. I wound up with work where it's like things got weird, and I wondered if at some point in my life I was put on some weird trajectory where people are doing odd things. Let's let this pig go. And it's like, did someone put me on a weird path? Because ever since the mid-90s or late 90s, I've worked in places where odd things happened, bad dynamics came into play, so much that myself or even other people would feel pushed out of the workforce. So one place that was okay was the Newark Post, and the problem is it barely paid. I mean, you're working for a pittance, and on that salary you can't even afford like to pay rent on an apartment, let alone try to, you know, get a house or something like that. And then if you're single, that's another issue. You know, it's easier to, if you find a good match, it's easier to have a spouse, partner, or a really good friend who you're willing to like shack up with, or a group of people. I've seen this, in fact, speaking of You and the Boom, Wade Powell, I believe, I feel like he shared a house. I don't know if he really wanted to, but based on his income, I guess he decided to, you know, share. And it's very common, like in Gainesville, Florida, to live in a house with like multiple people, and then everyone's expenses are a lot less. You know, you rent, you know, basically you rent a room, if you will, and you know, 3 or 4 people in a house paying the rent of a small house. And in Gainesville they have these little houses, you know, so it's not, you can kind of relax and not worry about your bank account being drained. In my case, finding roommates, I tried to find one once. It was a bad deal, so twice. Bad deal, so it's like, I don't know how to find quality people. So kind of have to be a certain type of person. Females have it harder, I believe, than men. And females have to worry about their safety. Whereas guys might be able to feel a little bit safer even if they don't love living with other people. Anyway, that's my spiel so far for today. Slightly less anxiety, but I can tell that it's in the air, whatever's going on, and it's like a flashback to 2011 through 2017, 18 of, are you kidding me? Like, and I was into holistic raw veganism. I'm still like vegetarian, you know, mostly vegan except for yogurt. And I've never had any prescription pills for anything in life. Even after a bike accident, I was prescribed antibiotics, but I used the topical instead of the ingested, because the ingested made me really, again, it was like a weird depressive anxiety. Anyway, I actually called and said, is it necessary for me to take this internal, whatever you call it, antibiotic? And they're like, you should be okay with the topical, even though my injuries were really bad. I have pictures of just like how blown up I was and puffed up and punctured I was from that accident. So I just felt like pain was put on big time, like a day after the accident. So I know, like, in a way, after an accident, it can take us several days sometimes for the wounds to, like, actually, for you to actually feel the pain, or people don't know they have, like, a back problem or whiplash after a car accident until, like, 2 or 3 days after. It shows, you know, that's normal. So, but anyway, I wound up coming up with holistic remedies. So I would go to the natural food store, Essene Market, which is now closed, and I would get ashwagandha, holy basil, insomnia cookie here. And I ate so well that you couldn't blame it on sugar or other food issues. So the cause of the anxiety, besides the major PTSD, shell shock that was just kept being ripped open day in and day out, hour after hour, minute after minute, you know, whatever I was saying, the point is, you know, my PTSD never healed, or that shell shock from 2011 never really healed, and I was just kept, you know, re-wounded every minute of every day since that. It was bad. If you could have seen me the first week that everything kicked off, you would have wondered, like, whoa, what in God's name is going on? I do know they can send messages. For instance, there are people who can make you believe things even from a distance without talking to you to your face. So they can make you believe crazy things, which looks like an enemy of the state scenario, that movie. So speaking of course, Gene Hackman just passed away, which brought up that movie, and it's like, that's the other movie that this was like. And it's hard to prove to people, because it's hard for them to know unless they were to run into you or see you or hear you scream down the street on a bad day. And they can drive people crazy, whoever they are, powers that be that should not be in power. So whoever's handling the reins today is not worthy of that type of control. I can already tell because my body's in major, you know, shakedown, tremble mode. And there, other than like worrying about, you know, longevity and paying in the long term to exist, you know, as a senior citizen as time goes on, I don't need to worry that much. Like, I could be in a more relaxed state, which could help me find work and stuff like that. So it is helpful to not be totally, you know, freaked out. So who's on today? Somebody's on today. Now Macy's is officially closed, so yesterday was the last day. We're passing by on the right. There's a Casero's coffee directly to my right now. That's part of the Macy's complex. I think they're still open, so. Speaking of, here's Mind Space.